Welcome to this JavaScript ES6 Plus Core Concept Study Guide, Part 3 of 4 from TestMole.com, where employers can test candidates and teams using pre-built or custom assessments. We also create free tests and guides like this. Please help us by liking this video. Subscribe for more study guides and free tests. And turn on notifications. Okay, let's begin. In JavaScript, objects inherit properties and methods from. JavaScript uses prototypal inheritance. Unlike class-based languages where objects are instances of a blueprint, JavaScript objects have a hidden internal property, often called prototype, that points to another object. When you attempt to access a property or method that doesn't exist on the object itself, the engine looks up the chain until it finds the property or reaches the end of the chain, null. Let's review the options. A. They're class only. B. The prototype chain. C. The CSS file. D. The global window object only. The answer is B. The prototype chain is the mechanism for inheritance in JavaScript. Classes are merely syntactic sugar over this underlying system, and CSS or the global window object are unrelated to the core object inheritance model. Which of the following has higher priority in the event loop? The event loop manages asynchronous tasks by prioritizing queues. Microtasks, high priority. These include promise.then, queueMicrotask, and mutation observer. The engine processes all pending microtasks immediately after the current task completes. Macrotasks, lower priority. These include setTimeout, setInterval, and I/O operations. The event loop processes one macrotask at a time, checking the microtask queue between each one. Choose between A. setTimeout, macrotask. B. promise.then, microtask. C. setInterval, macrotask. D. UI rendering. The answer is B. Microtasks like promise.then are executed immediately after the current execution stack clears, before the event loop moves on to the next macrotask or rendering step. What does the fetch function return? The fetch API is a modern, promise-based way to make network requests. Because network requests are asynchronous, fetch does not return the data immediately. Instead, it returns a promise that resolves to a response object. To access the actual data, like JSON, you must call a method on that response object, e.g., .json or .text, which itself returns another promise. Let's review the options. A. The data directly as JSON. B. A promise that resolves to a response object. C. A string containing the HTML. D. A Boolean indicating success. The answer is B. The function returns a promise because network requests are asynchronous. It does not return the data directly, as parsing the body requires an additional asynchronous step. Which of these are correct ways to destructure and rename properties? Select all that apply. Destructuring allows you to extract values from objects and assign them to variables. You can rename variables using the property new name syntax. You can also provide default values if the property is missing, and use bracket notation for keys that contain special characters, like hyphens. Let's review the options. A. Const name, full name equals user. B. Const name is full name equals user. C. Const age, years old equals 25 equals user. D. Const first name equals user. The answer is A, C, and D. Using name, full name correctly renames the property. Default values are assigned with equals, and string keys in quotes handle non-standard property names. The S keyword is invalid for object destructuring. What happens if you call a function expression before it is defined using const? In JavaScript, variables declared with const or let are hoisted to the top of their block, but they remain in a temporal dead zone (TDZ) until the line of code where they are initialized is executed. If you attempt to access a function expression stored in a const variable before that line, the engine knows the variable exists but forbids access, resulting in a reference error. Choose between A. It works perfectly. B. It returns undefined. C. It throws a reference error. D. It throws a type error. The answer is C. Because const variables are not initialized until the code execution reaches their declaration, accessing them early triggers a reference error. This differs from var, which would return undefined. Which method converts a JavaScript object into a JSON string? In JavaScript, data exchange often requires converting objects into a standard text format. The JSON object provides two primary methods for this serialization process. JSON.stringify value transforms a JavaScript object or value into a JSON-formatted string. This is essential for sending data to a web server. JSON.parse text performs the inverse, taking a JSON string and transforming it back into a usable JavaScript object. Think of stringify as packaging your data for transport and parse as unpacking it upon arrival. Let's review the options. A. JSON.parse. B. JSON.stringify. C. JSON.objectify. D. JSON.toString. The answer is B. JSON.stringify is the built-in method specifically designed to serialize objects into strings. JSON.parse does the opposite, while JSON.objectify and JSON.toString are not valid methods in the standard JSON API. When does the finally block in a try-catch finally statement execute? Error handling in JavaScript uses the try, catch, finally structure to ensure robust code execution. The logic flows as follows. Try contains the code that might throw an error. Catch executes only if an error is thrown in the try block. Finally, executes after the try and catch blocks, regardless of the outcome. This is particularly useful for cleanup tasks such as closing database connections, stopping timers, or hiding loading spinners, ensuring these actions happen whether the operation succeeded or failed. The options are A. Only when an error occurs. B. Only when no error occurs. C. Always, regardless of whether an error occurred or not. D. Only if the catch block also fails. The answer is C. The finally block is designed for cleanup, so it executes unconditionally after the try and catch blocks finish, regardless of whether an error was thrown. What does 123.flat2 return? The .flat method creates a new array with all subarray elements concatenated into it recursively up to a specified depth. Syntax: array.flat depth. Depth: the number of levels deep the flattening should go. If you provide infinity, it flattens all levels. In the example 123.flat2. Level 1, 1, 2, 3. Level 2, 1, 2, 3. By specifying a depth of 2, you reach into the nested structure twice, effectively pulling all elements into a single, one-dimensional array. Choose between A 1, 2, 3, B 1, 2, 3, C 1, 2, 3, D 1, 2, 3. The answer is B. The flat 2 method removes two levels of nesting, turning 1, 2, 3 into 1, 2, 3. Other options either fail to flatten enough levels or incorrectly restructure the array. What is one effect of using useStrict in JavaScript? Strict mode is a way to opt into a restricted variant of JavaScript. By adding use_strict at the top of a script or function, you enable better error checking and prevent common coding mistakes. Key benefits include: prevents accidental globals. You cannot assign values to undeclared variables. Eliminates this coercion. In non-strict mode, this defaults to the global object. In strict mode, it remains undefined if not explicitly set. Disallows unsafe syntax, such as using with statements or deleting variables/functions. Secures reserved words, prevents the use of future reserved keywords as variable names. Possible answers are: A. It makes the code run faster by skipping checks. B. It prevents the use of undeclared variables. C. It allows the use of reserved keywords like public. D. It disables the console. The answer is B. Strict mode enforces cleaner code by throwing errors for common mistakes like using undeclared variables, which would otherwise silently create global variables. What is the primary difference between .call and .bind? Both .call and .bind are used to control the value of this within a function, but they serve different purposes in execution flow. .call, this arg1, invokes the function immediately. You pass the context and arguments directly. .bind, this arg1, does not invoke the function immediately. Instead, it returns a new function with this context permanently locked to the provided argument. You must call this new function later to execute the logic. Use .call, when you need to run a function once with a specific context. Use .bind, when you need to pass a function as a callback while ensuring it maintains a specific context. Here are the options. A. .call returns a new function. .bind executes immediately. B. .call executes immediately. .bind returns a new function with a bound this. C. There is no difference. D. .call only works with arrays. The answer is B. .call executes the function immediately with the specified context, whereas .bind returns a new function that can be executed later with that context permanently attached. How long does data stored in local storage persist? The Local Storage API provides a way to store key-value pairs in the browser that persist even after the browser window or tab is closed. Unlike session storage, which is cleared when the page session ends, local storage has no expiration time. Data remains until it is manually cleared by the user, via browser settings, or programmatically removed using methods like localstorage.removeItem or localstorage.clear. Let's review the options. A. Until the browser tab is closed. B. Until it is explicitly deleted by the user or the script. C. For exactly 24 hours. D. Until the computer is restarted. The answer is B. Local storage is designed for long-term persistence, making it independent of tab closures or system restarts. Other options incorrectly imply temporary lifespans or arbitrary time limits that do not exist for this storage mechanism. By default, how does the .sort method sort elements in an array? The JavaScript .sort method converts elements into strings and compares their sequences of UTF-16 code unit values. This behavior is often counterintuitive for numbers. For example, the number 10 comes before 2 because 1 is less than 2 in string comparison. To sort numbers correctly, you must provide a compare function, a, b, equals a, b. Choose between A. Numerically, smallest to largest. B. As strings in alphabetical order. C. In the order they were added. D. Randomly. The answer is B. Default sorting treats all elements as strings, which explains why alphabetical order is the standard behavior. It does not sort numerically or randomly, nor does it preserve the original insertion order. What is the most reliable way to check if a variable X is an array? Determining if a variable is an array can be tricky because typeof returns object for arrays, which is not specific enough. While InstanceIf generally works, it can fail in environments with multiple frames or windows, like a frames, as each frame has its own global execution context and array constructor. Array.isArray, X, is the modern, robust standard that correctly identifies arrays regardless of the execution context. Let's review the options. A. Typeof X == array. B. X InstanceIf array. C. Array.isArray, X. D. X.type == array. The answer is C. Array.isArray is the most reliable method because it is specifically designed to handle cross-frame issues. The other options are either syntactically incorrect or prone to false negatives in complex environments. In ES 2021, what does X = Y do? The logical or assignment operator, smiley face, is a shorthand for conditional assignment. The expression X = Y is equivalent to X = Y. It evaluates X first. If X is truthy, the expression returns X and does not assign Y. If X is falsy, such as null, undefined, 0, false, or an empty string, it assigns the value of Y to X. Here are the options. A. Assigns Y to X if X is null. B. Assigns Y to X if X is falsy. C. Assigns Y to X if X is truthy. D. Always assigns Y to X. The answer is B. The operator checks for falsy values before performing the assignment. It does not trigger on truthy values, nor is it restricted only to null checks. What is event delegation? Event delegation leverages the concept of event bubbling, where an event triggered on a child element propagates up to its ancestors. By attaching a single listener to a parent container, you can manage events for many children dynamically. This is highly efficient because it reduces memory usage by avoiding the need to attach individual listeners to every single child element, especially when children are added or removed from the DOM frequently. Here are the options. A. Assigning one event listener to each child element. B. Attaching a single event listener to a parent element to handle events on its children. C. Stopping an event from bubbling up. D. Delegating JS tasks to a web worker. The answer is B. Delegation relies on bubbling to a single parent listener, which is more efficient than individual listeners. It is unrelated to stopping propagation or offloading tasks to web workers. What is a key benefit of using a web worker? JavaScript is single-threaded, meaning it executes code sequentially on the main thread. If a script performs a heavy computation, like complex data processing or image manipulation, the browser's main thread becomes blocked, causing the UI to freeze and become unresponsive to user input. Web workers solve this by allowing you to run scripts in background threads, separate from the main execution thread. Key characteristics of web workers. Isolation. They run in a separate global context, usually dedicated worker global scope, meaning they cannot access the window object or the DOM directly. Communication. Interaction between the main thread and the worker occurs via message passing using postMessage and the onMessage event handler. Performance. They are ideal for CPU-intensive tasks that would otherwise degrade the user experience. Let's review the options. A. It can directly manipulate the DOM. B. It runs in a background thread, preventing heavy tasks from blocking the UI. C. It makes network requests faster. D. It allows the script to run without a browser. The answer is B. Offloading heavy tasks to a background thread keeps the main thread free to handle user interactions, ensuring a smooth UI. Other options are incorrect because web workers cannot access the DOM, do not inherently speed up network requests, which are handled by the browser's networking stack, and still require a browser environment to function. Which of the following create a shallow copy of an array? Select all that apply. A shallow copy creates a new object or array, but it only copies the top-level references. If the original array contains nested objects or arrays, the new array will still point to the same memory references for those nested items. Common methods for creating shallow copies include spread syntax, a concise way to expand elements into a new array. Array.prototype.slice, a traditional method that returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array. Calling it without arguments copies the entire array. Array.from, a static method that creates a new array instance from an iterable or array-like object. Choose between A. Original array, B. Original array.slice, C. Array.from original array, D. Const new arr equals original array. The answer is A, B, and C. The spread operator, slice, and array.from all create new array instances, effectively shallow copying the original. Assigning const new arr equals original array does not create a copy, it simply creates a new variable reference pointing to the exact same array in memory. What is the difference between object.ceal and object.freeze? Both object.ceal and object.freeze restrict how an object can be modified, but they operate at different levels of strictness. Feature object.ceal, object.freeze. Add new properties no. Delete properties no. Change existing values yes/no. Configure properties no. Sealing an object prevents the addition or removal of properties, but allows you to update the values of existing properties. Freezing an object makes it entirely immutable, preventing both structural changes and value updates. Here are the options. A. Freeze allows changing values, seal does not. B. Seal allows changing existing property values, freeze does not. C. There is no difference. D. Freeze allows adding new properties. The answer is B. Seal allows existing properties to be updated, whereas freeze makes the entire object read-only. The other options incorrectly describe these methods or suggest they are identical. What does IFE stand for? An IFE, immediately invoked function expression, is a JavaScript design pattern that executes a function as soon as it is defined. Syntax typically involves wrapping the function in parentheses to treat it as an expression, followed by an invocation pair of parentheses. This pattern is primarily used to create a private scope, preventing variables from leaking into the global namespace. Before the introduction of let and const block scoping, IFEs were the standard way to manage scope and avoid naming collisions in large applications. The options are A. Internal integrated functional element, B. Immediately invoked function expression, C. Iterative interface functional entry, D. Instance independent function execution. The answer is B. IFE stands for immediately invoked function expression, describing exactly what the pattern does. It defines a function and executes it in the same statement. What is variable shadowing? Variable shadowing occurs when a variable declared within a specific scope, like a function or block, shares the same name as a variable in an outer scope. When the engine looks for the variable, it starts from the innermost scope and moves outward. Because the inner variable is found first, it shadows, or hides the outer variable, making the outer one inaccessible within that specific block. Example: choose between A. When a variable is deleted from scope. B. When a variable declared in an inner scope has the same name as one in an outer scope. C. When a variable is moved to the global scope. D. When two variables share the same memory address. The answer is B. Shadowing specifically refers to the naming collision between scopes where the inner variable takes precedence. It does not involve deleting variables, moving them to global scope, or sharing memory addresses. JavaScript manages memory automatically using which algorithm? JavaScript handles memory management through a process called garbage collection. The engine identifies objects that are no longer reachable from the root, the global object or active execution context, and reclaims their memory. The primary algorithm used is mark and sweep. Marking: the collector starts from roots and traverses all references, marking objects as reachable. Sweeping: any object not marked during the traversal is considered unreachable and is removed from memory. Possible answers are A. First in, first out, FIFO. B. Mark and sweep. C. Binary search. D. Random access. The answer is B. Mark and sweep is the standard algorithm for identifying unreachable memory. FIFO is a queue data structure, binary search is an algorithm for finding items in sorted lists, and random access is a memory addressing property, not a garbage collection strategy. What does the .matchAll method return? The .matchAll method provides a way to retrieve all results from a regular expression search against a string. Unlike .match, with a global flag, which returns an array of matches, .matchAll returns an iterator. This is particularly useful because it includes capturing groups for every match found, allowing you to iterate through complex patterns without losing the structure of your submatches. Choose between A. An array of strings. B. An iterator of all matches, including capturing groups. C. The first match only. D. A Boolean. The answer is B. Returning an iterator allows for efficient, memory-friendly processing of large result sets. Other options are incorrect because they either return static arrays, only the first match, or a Boolean, failing to provide the comprehensive group data that .matchAll is designed to capture. How do you denote a bigint literal in JavaScript? The bigint type was introduced to allow JavaScript to represent integers larger than the number .maxIfInteger limit, 2 to the power of 53 1. Standard numbers in JavaScript are 64-bit floats, which lose precision with very large integers. To create a bigint literal, you append the character n to the end of an integer. Possible answers are A. Append b to the number, e.g. 100b. B. Append n to the number, e.g. 100n. C. Use the big keyword, e.g. big 100. D. Wrap it in brackets, e.g. 100. The answer is B. Appending n is the specific syntax required to tell the JavaScript engine to treat the value as a bigint. The other options use invalid syntax or keywords that do not exist for bigint creation. What is the benefit of the .at method ES 2022 for arrays? Before the .at method, accessing the last element of an array required calculating the index using array.length 1. The .at method simplifies this by accepting relative indexing. Array.at 0 is the first element. Array.at -1 is the last element. Array.at -2 is the second to last element. Possible answers are A. It is faster than square brackets. B. It allows easy access to elements using negative indices, like -1 for the last item. C. It can only access strings. D. It automatically sorts the array. The answer is B. The primary purpose of .at is to enable negative indexing, which is cleaner and more readable than manual length calculations. It does not affect performance, sorting, or data type restrictions. Which syntax is used for dynamic imports, loading modules on demand? Static import statements are hoisted and must be at the top level of a file. The syntax import returns a promise that resolves to the module namespace object. The options are A. Require.module.js B. Import.module.js C. Fetch.module.module.js D. Load.module.module.js The answer is B. The import function is the standard syntax for dynamic module loading. Require is specific to CommonJS, and the other options are not valid JavaScript module loading patterns. Thanks for watching. With TestMole.com, you get everything in one place, from easy candidate invites and role-based access, to deep analytics and built-in anti-cheat mechanics. We'll assess code answers, free text responses, and issue verified certificates. Ready to simplify your hiring? Give TestMole a try. And one more thing. If you like this video and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe.